G'day. Today we're going to be doing the spring and shackle bushes on this KUN26 Hilux. It's pretty much the same no matter what vehicle you've got. The basic principle is always going to be the same. This one's totally worn out. It's been squeaking at me for a long time. I've been meaning to do it. So got some Nolathane bushes and I'll show you how we get the old ones out, put the new ones in and the whole process. I'm going to start by cracking these nuts and we'll get this wheel off and we'll go from there. Okay, so we've taken the weight of the car on a jack on the rear axle. We've got the wheel off the ground. We've then dropped the weight onto an axle stand that sits on the chassis. So obviously you never work on a car, it's only on a jack. Always have the axle stands in place. I've also got another one on the back just to cover in case things turn south. Now that I'm happy with that, we can take the wheel off and then we can manipulate the suspension up and down with the jack, which will help us get the bolts and the bushings out of the spring eyes and help us get them back in as well. So I'm happy that it's safe. I'm going to take the wheel off and we'll start dropping the suspension. Okay, so wheel off. We're going to go for this nut and bolt arrangement in here. I've hit the thread on the nut side with the wire brush and a little bit of WD-40 to help us out. Now in this case they are 19mm, both the nut and the bolt are 19mm head anyway. We're going to undo that. We're going to drop this side of the spring down using the jack, and then we're going to get rid of the old bush. Fit the new bush. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so the nut came off surprisingly easy actually. So what we need to do is I've unloaded the suspension. I've taken the jack all the way down till the suspension has no weight on it. It's not doing anything. With the nut off, I've stuck my pry bar in here and just pushed the bolt across a little bit, and I've got a bit of a gap here. And what we can do, so we can get behind the head of this bolt, we can actually work it out. Quite tight, but it is coming out without too many dramas. There you go, just a little bit of weight on it. I'm going to buff that up anyway. I reckon we'll need to buff it up, and a lot of anti-seize when we put it together as well. So the spring's now free. We're just going to have to manipulate that with the jack to get it out and have a look at this bush. I don't think there's much left of the bush at all. Okay, so I've dropped the rear axle as low as I can and I've pried the eye out of the chassis here, and I've actually stuck this in as well just to give us a little bit more room and a little bit more safety while we work on this. Now, how bad was this? Well, the spacer, that's the spacer and the bush. That's all the bush that's left. And it's worn through the spacer as well. For a bit of a reference, what it's going to look like when we put it together is that's the bush and the spacer, and obviously another bush on the other side. We're going to push all that in there. Yeah, I don't think it can get more worn than that. There is absolutely nothing left at all. But these things happen. Here are our new bushes. These are for the rear with the shackle, and these are the front with that spacer that we just looked at. They come with their own grease. It's important to grease the moving parts and not grease the press fits, which I'll show you how to do. And the same goes with the rears as well. They almost look edible. I don't know if it's just me, but fantastic looking bushes, and let's get them fitted. Okay, well I've cleaned out the bore, any crap that's sitting in there. There's not much bush left to get out, so it's all gone. Got the bushing here, the new one. This is an interference fit here, so we don't want to put any lube or anything on the outside of these two faces, but they do pivot on here, so we want to put lube on the inside. We also want to lube this face because that's where all the pivoting is going to happen, but the spring will actually be tight on here and on this face here. So it's not incredibly tight, this one. I don't know if it's meant to be. I think mine's quite worn, but it's sort of tight enough. It's not going to go anywhere. So you just want to push it in as far as you sort of can, and then we'll just tap it home. Soft hammer. We'll do the same on the other side, and we'll put the spacer tube in with a little bit of that Nolathane lube that you get with your kit, and then we'll pull it back into the chassis there, and we'll be done with this end. We'll do the other end. Alright, they're both in. We'll just put a bit of this bushing lubricant on the faces and in the bore. Can't go too wrong. Smash a bit around the tube, why not? Alright, so we just slam the tube in there. Okay, because we're doing one side at a time, the spring's actually moved a little bit away from the chassis here, especially with the new bushes. It makes things a lot more difficult. What I need to do is just push this across like that and push the spring into the chassis. So we'll take the weight off here. It should bring itself up pretty nicely. And then if we need to, we can actually move this back underneath as well and push the spring into that. Or we can jack the axle up, whichever way works really. Push that into there, make sure that bushing's going to go without tearing the bushing, preferably. I guess we'll see. Alright, we should be able to push that up now, all the way home. That's going in. We'll just jack it all the way up until the holes line up and drop the bolt in. Happy days. Okay, in order to get the bolt in, we can stick a pry bar where it is there, and we've got the ability to go pull the pry bar this way, we go down, or we can push the pry bar this way. In my case, we can go forward, and we want to go a little bit forward there to get the bolt in. Now the bolt, I've put anti-seize all along the shank. I'll put some anti-seize under the washer once I get it most of the way in, and on the thread as well. So we just need to do that, and we should be home and hosed. Handbrake cable is not ideally located. Lovely, it's a good start anyway. A little bit of anti-seize under the head of the bolt. Should have done a little bit earlier, but I didn't. Alright, we'll simply put the nut on and we'll torque it up to spec. And then the front is done. Alright, so the nut's on. We just got to torque it up to 120 Newton meters, and that's done. Lovely. Job done. Let's do the back. Alright, so the front's done. The back is very much the same. It's just got a shackle. Obviously we're going to have twice as many bushes to do. There is no steel sleeve on these ones, it's just a plain bush, and they are greasable as well. I've got the greasable pins on these, so take all that apart, and it's the exact same process, just at the rear of the car. A little bit more annoying with the well body. It'd be nice if I had a tray back at this point, but just have to lay underneath it and get into it. I'm just going to undo these two at the spring and at the chassis as well. Take the pin out, swing it out the way. We can do the top bush first, swing it back, and then we'll put the bush in the actual spring. I think this side's easier than the other side personally, but we'll see how we go. So the shackles in this case are in two pieces. So I've pulled the nuts off the back side and pulled that half the shackle off on this side. We can just pry out like so. There it goes. And there's not much left of those bushes either. I have greased them quite a bit, but this thing's old. Alright, we'll put new bushes on there, and yeah, super easy the back side. It's a good opportunity while you got the shackles off, just to make sure they still the grease still operates. They're not all blocked up like this one is. Just going to be doing this job again if they don't work. There you go. Both of them are working now. Same goes with this side. Alright, so very similar to last time, but this time around we've put the two bushes, the long and the short, on the shackle. We put the other two in the chassis and the spring. So all we need to do, we've lubed all up with the special stuff. We just need to line these up. You can move the spring fairly easy by hand here. And just work it in to the spring and into the chassis as well. It'll take a bit more effort because you're pushing two in, but it's the same idea. If you find that when you've put your shackle in it pushes this other bush out, you can actually just whack your nut back on a big washer. And pull it in like that. That's how I did it, super easy. You can use a shackle as well instead of a washer. Too easy. Now we'll just put the other half of the shackle back on. We'll put some lube on them faces too, I reckon, and job's done. Alright, once you've got your nuts on, you've got to torque them up to 60 newton meters. A bit looser than the front. This is what it is. Same with the bottom one as well. And that's it. Job done. And that is all done. Front and rear. Obviously I'm going to go do the other side now, but that's job done. Thanks for watching.